I answered the knock on my door to find Joanna, the postmaster's new helpmate on our farmhouse's front step, hunched over and wheezing with her hands on both knees. She tried to talk, but only managed, You'll. Poor thing. She was completely out of breath. Most likely because of the distance she'd had to travel from Herstead to ours, at the furthest edge of town, while 6 months pregnant. I opened my mouth to offer her what appeared to be a much-needed glass of water. You'll never guess what came in the mail, Joanna gasped out before I could. She waved a letter in the air. I was sorting through all the mail as my benefactor instructed me to do, when I saw this letter addressed to you. It came all the way from Scotland. I eyed both her and the letter warily. Like me, Joanna wasn't from St. Albert Village, or SAV, as the abbreviation-happy PEI outsiders called what they assumed was a human Mennonite farming community. The postmaster's new helpmate had only been wolf-mated a few months ago, so she remained in that special time of an SAV new arrival. Excited to be here, and hopeful that her pregnancy would result in the birth of a boy. It would. My 11-year-old daughter had told me the village's newest arrival was expecting a boy. And Dory might be toothless, but her nose had never been wrong. Joanna would soon be ascended, as they called it here, to the position of wife. I'd forbidden Dory from making such announcements years ago, though. So the postmaster's new helpmate wasn't aware of her incoming fortune. She hadn't yet turned mean and prideful, as the other wives in our community had. She still considered herself one of us. For the time being, she was a fellow helpmate. Until she produced a son, she was morally obligated to assume a role of complete servitude to her benefactor, the male who had wolf-mated her. As nice as Joanna was now, she'd soon come to look down on me and the rest of the helpmates when she became a wife. That was as predictable a cycle in St. Albert Village as the full moon rising and setting each month. But Joanna didn't know any of this, yet. And she also didn't appear to know about the humility rules around male. According to the St. Albert discipline, helpmates, always spelled with a lowercase h, even when placed at the beginning of sentences, were expected to be humble themselves to their benefactors, always spelled with a capital B, in every way. This meant we weren't allowed to handle mail ourselves. It all had to go through our benefactors. Only wives had the privilege of sending and receiving mail without oversight. I wasn't surprised she didn't know about this, though. None of us helpmates had been told about any of the extra helpmate rules until we gave birth to girls. Still, her naivete made me cringe inside. 12 years ago, I'd been as ignorant as her. I'd come to St. Albert freshly wolf-mated to Joshua Byler, the eldest son of Jeremiah Byler, our community bishop. I'd bristled with excitement because I had no idea back then. No clue that the SAV Wolfenite rules were nothing like those of the Wolfenite pack I'd left behind before turning 18. I assumed I was at the beginning of the same journey my parents had undertaken when my mother agreed to be wolf-mated to my father. And I assumed it would include at least 3 children, the same as my loving parents. But I knew better than that these days, and my chest seized with a now familiar fear. I could get in trouble with Joshua, merely for having this conversation. He wouldn't give me time to explain what happened. He never did. Not even when I broke the SAV discipline rules on accident. Not even when I broke rules that weren't actually in the SAV discipline at all. Often he made up new ones for the sole purpose of finding an excuse to reprimand me. Looking at the letter in Joanna's hand, I could already feel the hot sting of his reprimand stick across my skin. I should send her away with a polite request not to tell Joshua she stopped here first. But the letter had come all the way from Scotland, a place I'd only ever seen on a globe.